Welcome to the Ruy Lopez open variation, part 2. Today we study the Dilworth Variation, where black sacrifices on f2 to seize the initiative. White plays e4, taking central space and opening lines for the queen and bishop. Black answers e5, meeting white's central claim directly. Knight f3 develops with tempo against the e5 pawn. Knight c6 develops and protects e5. Bishop b5 begins the Ruy Lopez and pressures the knight supporting e5. Black plays a6 and asks the bishop to decide. Bishop a4 keeps the pressure while preserving the bishop. Knight f6 develops and attacks the e4 pawn. White castles, securing the king before resolving the central tension. Knight takes e4. Black accepts central tension in return for active piece play. White plays d4, attacking the center before black can consolidate. Black plays b5, gaining time against the bishop. Bishop b3 stays active toward f7. Black plays d5, supporting the knight and claiming central space. The d-pawn takes e5, removing black's central pawn and attacking the knight's support. Bishop e6 develops and reinforces the central structure. This connects directly with our earlier open variation lecture. White plays c3, controlling d4 and preparing knight bd2. Bishop c5 points directly at f2. This active placement makes the coming sacrifice possible. Knight bd2 develops and questions the knight on e4. Black castles and trusts the activity of the pieces around white's king. Bishop c2 retreats while keeping pressure toward h7. The knight on e4 is now under attack. Knight takes f2. Black removes the pawn protecting white's king and forces the rook away from f1. Rook takes f2. White wins the knight, but the rook becomes a tactical target on f2. Black plays f6. This is the essential follow-up: attack e5, open lines, and prepare bishop takes f2 with check. White now has three serious approaches. E takes f6 accepts the classical transformation. Knight f1 aims for a safer king. Queen e2 keeps more tension. Today's lesson compares the first two ideas. The e-pawn takes f6. White removes black's attacking pawn, but opens the queen's path to f6. Bishop takes f2 with check. Black exchanges the active bishop for the rook and forces white's king into the open. King takes f2. White has many pieces, but the king and queen side remain undeveloped. Queen takes f6. Material alone is misleading. Black's queen, two rooks, and active pieces can attack before white coordinates the extra minor piece. Knight f1 is white's key consolidating move. It develops a defender, prepares king g1, and makes the f3 knight easier to support. Knight e5 centralizes with tempo against white's loose position. The knight may jump to f3 while the rooks enter through e8 and f8. Bishop e3 develops the queen side and makes exchanges possible. White survives by coordinating quickly, not by trying to hold every pawn. Returning to the position after f6, white can choose king safety before clarifying the center. Knight f1 is the modern refinement. White leaves the pawn on e5 and prepares to meet the attack with better king safety. Bishop takes f2 with check. If black delays, white may develop with bishop e3 and keep the rook. King takes f2. The difference is that the knight already stands on f1, ready to support the king's retreat. The f-pawn takes e5. Black keeps a broad pawn center, but white intends to blockade it rather than win the pawn immediately. King g1 reaches safety. White has surrendered the e-pawn, but the safer king changes the character of black's compensation. Black can develop with bishop g4, queen d6, or queen d7. White usually answers with knight e3, bishop e3, b3, and a blockade of the central pawns. Those detailed branches belong to the next lecture. The Dilworth works because knight takes f2 is followed immediately by f6. The classical e takes f6 line accepts an exposed king and seeks rapid consolidation. The modern knight f1 line gives black the center but guides the king safely to g1. In both cases, activity and coordination matter more than counting material.